Welcome back to another Midnight Tales. Today, we have something different in store for our Midnight Tales fans. Smash that notification bell, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get started. The Visitor's Gift.
The weight of bills. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly in the silence, every second a reminder of how late it was. She sat at the small table, elbows pressed into the wood, staring at a spread of envelopes that all seemed to scream the same word: urgent. A red-stamped final notice caught the glow of the single overhead bulb, and she dragged her hand across her face, feeling the heaviness settle deeper into her bones. The hum of the refrigerator sputtered, then steadied again, another reminder of the old building she couldn't afford to leave. Outside, the city murmured faintly, distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere in the alley. But inside, it was just her debts, and the quiet choke of not knowing how to make tomorrow better than today. She pushed the stack of bills away, but they slid right back toward her like they were alive, like they had weight beyond paper. Her shoulders sagged. Even the coffee cup beside her sat empty, its ring marking the table like another little failure. She whispered, almost to herself, "Something's gotta give." The clock ticked on, unmoved. She leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling as though it might offer answers. "It's like running in circles," she murmured. "Every time I get a little ahead, something pulls me right back down." Her eyes drifted to the overdue electric bill, then to the rent notice. She imagined the landlord's heavy knock, the way his eyes never softened when she explained she just needed more time. No sympathy there, no pause button on life. Work, sleep, bills. "Repeat," she whispered, shaking her head. "I never asked to get on, spinning and spinning, going nowhere, like some damn hamster wheel." Her fingers drummed against the table. She thought of the hours she'd given away for paychecks that barely held her together, the dreams she'd shelved because surviving took every ounce of her. The walls of the apartment seemed to lean in, listening, holding her words in their peeling paint. Her chest ached with the quiet confession. "I'm tired of fighting for crumbs. Just once, I want to breathe without wondering what it'll cost me." The bulb above her flickered once, soft, quick, like the universe was answering, though she didn't notice. She pressed her palms flat against the table, the cool wood grounding her. "How long can I keep this up?" The question rose like smoke, curling in her chest with no clean answer. Sometimes she imagined herself stepping off the wheel altogether, packing a bag, disappearing to some quiet town where no one knew her name. But reality always dragged her back. Overdue balances, auto drafts set to bounce, the sharp edge of survival. Her gaze fell on the window across the room. The blinds tilted just enough for her to see a slice of the night sky, dark and endless, uncaring about her small struggle. "It doesn't stop," she whispered. "The bills, the hours, the same damn grind every day. Like I'm stuck running, but the finish line doesn't even exist." The words trembled out of her, heavier than she meant them to. For a moment she just sat there, breathing slow, almost daring the silence to respond. Then she laughed, short, bitter, a sound that didn't belong to joy. "Hell, maybe I'm waiting for a miracle. Like those come cheap." The refrigerator rattled again, and this time the light above her flickered twice before steadying. She rubbed her temples, missing the way the shadows in the corner of the room seemed to shiver, just barely. She sighed and reached for her empty coffee cup, turning it absently in her hands. A hairline crack split across the rim, thin as a thread of lightning. She frowned. She didn't remember it being there before. The hum of the fridge wavered, dipping low like a voice trying to form a word, before settling back into its normal drone. She set the cup down slowly, her eyes darting to the clock on the wall. The second hand ticked forward, but the sound was off. Hesitant, irregular, like it skipped a beat. A draft whispered through the apartment. She rubbed her arms, glancing toward the window again. The blinds shivered, though the night outside was still. "Great," she muttered, pushing the stack of bills away once more. First the lights, now the damn windows, places falling apart. But the lights weren't just flickering this time. They dimmed, a low pulse traveling across the ceiling like a shudder. She stared up, waiting for them to steady, and they did. But a cold unease lingered in her chest. She shook her head, forcing a laugh. "Landlord better not try to make me pay for that, too." The shadows in the far corner stretched longer than they should have, curling just beyond her sight. When she looked directly at them, they snapped back to normal. She rubbed her eyes, telling herself it was exhaustion. But the feeling pressed in anyway. Something was here. The flicker. The bulb above her buzzed, sputtered, then flared too bright. She winced, shading her eyes. A sharp pop rang out, and the kitchen fell into darkness. Her breath caught. The refrigerator had gone silent. Even the clock on the wall had stopped ticking. "Power outage," she muttered, though the words didn't sound steady. She pushed back from the table, moving toward the drawer where she kept a lighter. Then the air shifted. Not cooler, not warmer, just different. Thick, charged, like a storm pressing in with no thunder. From the corner of her eye, the shadows gathered. They didn't just stretch this time. They pulsed, trembling with a faint glow that reminded her of heat lightning rolling behind storm clouds. The lighter slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. A sound rippled through the apartment, low, layered, as if 1,000 whispers were trying to speak all at once. She pressed her palms over her ears, but the sound wasn't outside her. It was inside, vibrating through her bones. The corner of the room flickered again, this time sharp and clear like a hole tearing open. Light poured through, unnatural and shifting, spilling patterns across the walls. Her chest tightened. She took a step back, but her feet felt glued to the floor. The air in the apartment thickened with pressure, pulling her gaze forward as though she had no choice but to look. And then, something moved inside the light. The arrival. The light in the corner quivered, folding in on itself like fabric pulled too tight, then snapping outward again in slow pulses. Her heart thudded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She forced her body backward until the backs of her knees pressed against the chair she'd just left. A shape stirred within the glow. At first, it was only motion, long, bending, like liquid shadows trying to stand upright. Then a glimmer of something slick, something that caught the light like glass underwater. Her throat closed. She wanted to scream, but the sound wouldn't rise. The whispers deepened, louder, yet still impossible to understand. They weren't words, more like meaning itself, brushing past her mind, teasing, testing, searching. The light shuddered again, spilling a flash so bright she squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them, the kitchen walls looked wrong, angled, warped, as if her apartment had shifted slightly sideways. The shape leaned forward. She caught the brief outline of something jagged, limbs too many, too long, folding and unfolding like a spider trying to remember its body. Her hand fumbled against the table, searching blindly for anything to hold, anything real. Her fingertips brushed the stack of bills again, sharp paper edges cutting her skin. She hissed at the sting, and the shape paused. The cut on her finger welled with a thin bead of blood. She hardly noticed it, but the thing in the light did. It moved again, closer this time. The air bent around it, bending her vision, making the kitchen tilt like a funhouse. She couldn't tell if it was tall or small, near or far. Her eyes watered from trying to pin it down. Her pulse hammered in her ears. This isn't real. This isn't real. The mantra tried to hold her steady, but her body betrayed her. Knees trembling, breath short, palms damp with sweat. One of its limbs, or shadows, or both, unfurled, stretching toward her. It didn't touch her, not yet, but the air between them throbbed with heat, then cold, then something she didn't have words for. The whispers surged. This time they didn't just brush her mind. They pressed into it, heavy and probing, as though the thing behind the light was rifling through her fear, flipping pages in her head she'd never shown anyone. She stumbled back, knocking her chair to the floor with a crash. The noise snapped through the silence like a gunshot. The shape froze. For the briefest moment, the light thinned, and she saw a glimpse, glossy black surface like wet stone. Eyes, if they were eyes, gleaming like coals banked under ash. No mouth, no face she could recognize, just the sense of a gaze fixed squarely on her. Her body went rigid. She felt like prey staring into the patience of a predator. The light thickened again, swallowing the details, leaving only motion. Her voice finally broke free, small and raw. "Please. No." The shape twitched, as though it had heard her. The thing shifted again, slower this time, deliberate, as if savoring her fear. Each motion bent the light in sharp angles, casting her kitchen in fractured shards. Her eyes darted to the doorway, to the thought of running, but her legs wouldn't move. The space between her and the corner stretched, impossibly long, like the room itself was warping to keep her close. She clutched the edge of the table with both hands, knuckles pale, the paper cut on her finger burning hotter than it should. She swore the air thickened around her wound, as if the drop of blood called to the thing. The whispers swelled again, louder, layered, some tones sharp as glass, others low and guttural. They weren't words, but they were questions. She felt the questions, pressing into her mind until tears stung her eyes. "Stop," she whispered. The sound cracked in her throat. "Please, stop." The light flared, casting the faintest image on the wall behind it. A jagged silhouette, limbs spread, a form not built for this world. She glimpsed curves of something armored, the glint of a surface that wasn't skin but wasn't metal either. And then, silence. The whispers cut out, all at once. The sudden quiet was worse than the noise. It pressed on her ears, her chest, the hollow of her throat. She knew, without seeing, that it was watching her, measuring her, threatening. The silence broke, not with sound, but with pressure. A weight pressed against her chest as though invisible hands were holding her down. She gasped for air, clawing at her throat, but nothing was there. Her vision blurred, colors bleeding at the edges. Then the images came. Flashes not her own. A forest of black glass spires under a sky that bled green. Shapes writhing in the air. Too many wings. Too many eyes. A sense of hunger so deep it felt older than the earth. She stumbled back, colliding with the counter. The images didn't fade. They crowded her mind, louder than her own thoughts. She felt it searching her, rifling through every memory, every wound. Her mother's tired sigh when bills went unpaid, the humiliation of begging for extensions, the sharp cold of nights when the heat shut off. All of it spilled wide open, and the thing consumed it greedily. Her hands shook. "Get out!" she rasped, though the words sounded small against the storm inside her head. The pressure sharpened, and another vision sliced through her, herself, broken and lifeless on the kitchen floor, her body crumpled like paper. She cried out, the sight so vivid it made her knees buckle. The whispers returned. Not outside, but inside. They weren't words, not truly, but meaning poured through her like poison. One intent, clear and undeniable. It could end her. Right now. The kitchen light flared and snapped again, throwing jagged shadows across the walls. She squeezed her eyes shut, trembling, waiting for the final blow. The pressure deepened. Her ribs ached, each breath thinner than the last. She clawed at the air, desperate, but the invisible weight pinned her where she stood. The visions sharpened, no longer flashes, but a torrent. She saw herself drowning beneath black water, lungs filling with fire. She saw her apartment building split open like a toy, neighbors screaming as they fell into a sky that was not the sky she knew. She saw hands, her own hands, scraping at walls that turned to liquid, then to teeth. "No," she choked, her voice strangled, tears streaking her face. "Please, stop!" But it didn't stop. The thing pressed harder, digging deeper. The whispers swelled until they became a single crushing thought. "You are small. You are weak. You are nothing." Her knees hit the floor. She curled forward, arms wrapped around her chest, as though she could shield herself from it. But the assault came from within, filling her skull with static, pressing against her very sense of self. The image of her own death returned, again and again, each time worse, crushed, torn apart, burned alive in her own skin. Each one more vivid than the last, until she couldn't tell if she was seeing or becoming. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, wild and erratic. She thought for a terrifying instant that it might stop altogether. And still, the presence pressed harder. Testing. Measuring how much it would take to break her completely. Her lips trembled, but through the sobs a sound slipped out, fragile, barely a breath. "Help me." The words left her lips, trembling, broken. "Help me." The pressure crushed down harder in reply, as though mocking the plea. Her body arched against the floor, trembling from the strain. Then, suddenly, it stopped. The silence returned, so absolute it rang in her ears. The weight lifted, leaving her lungs gasping, burning for air. She collapsed forward, palms flat against the cool tile, chest heaving. For a heartbeat, she thought it was over, that it had killed her after all, and she was drifting in some strange in-between. But then she felt it. The gaze, heavy and unblinking, still locked on her. The glow in the corner pulsed once, long, slow, deliberate. It hadn't left. It was watching, measuring, considering.
And that concludes part 1 of The Visitor's Gift. If you enjoyed this, leave a comment. If you think you know what's going to happen, drop a comment and tell us what it is. Hit the subscribe button and like this video to make sure you come back for part 2. Until next time.